mad. You still mad in the morning. He says, so get rid of it. Run from wrath. Run from those things. Get away from it. So he calls us to flee. He says because that demon wants to come back in, and you can't let him come back in. But here's the thing about it. He says that he decides he wants to come to the house he left. Now, what's the difference between a house and a human? Well, the house stays there, but the human doesn't. The human moves about. So if he comes back and the human is not where he's supposed to be, then he's got a problem. I can't go there because the human's there. That's why you can't go back to old places. You can't go back to the old places and hang out. You can't go back to the old neighborhood that you came out of. You can't go back to it because that's where you met your demons at. And they're waiting for you to come back. So you can't go back to that. You can't go back to that relationship that caused you to miss or to get away from Christ or to break you from Christ. You can't go back to that relationship. You got to stay out of that relationship or out of that situation or out of that area. You got to. You can't stay in that same mind frame. Okay. You gotta get some help. He said you gotta avoid those things. He says because if you don't, they'll come back in and they will camp. He said not only does he say, oh, the house is clean. There's no furniture in it. There's nothing new in there. So nobody's there. I can come back. And so the old wants to get back in. He said, no, you can't. You can't let the old back in. And then if you can't let the old back in, he said, I'll go back to my house where I left. And when he arrives, he finds the house unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. He said, there's no furniture nowhere. No furniture nowhere. Best way to get rid of an old couch is put a new couch in. He says, get rid of the old. Avoid those places that you shouldn't go back to, that you know you don't need to go back to. You don't need to go back to. You don't want to go back to them. And so as believers in Christ, there should be this thing in us that I don't want to go back to the life I used to live. Yes. Man, that life was hellish. That life made me look crazy. That life made me older than what I wanted to be. That life messed me up. I don't want to go back to that old life. He said, but God, if the Spirit comes in and finds it all swept, yeah, he said, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. And we're going to do that thing again. And he says, you got to get rid of the old. Avoid it. Run from it. Get away from it. But here's the last thing. I got to make this the last thing or you all are going to hang me. He says this. The last thing he says that you have to celebrate the small victories. Celebrate the small victories. So he wants to come back, but if you got something in there, you ought to celebrate the small victories. You ought to celebrate the small victories. When someone has achieved a goal, when somebody's gotten a little bit better, you ought to celebrate those small victories. Yes. So here's the problem. Here's the problem. A wife comes home. A wife is home, and she's waiting for her husband. Now, he's been dealing with alcohol or abuse, addictions for a while. He's been dealing with it. And he said, he comes home late. He says, I have been 7 days, I have been dealing with that addiction. I have victory over it. And he comes home and she says, not why you're late. Not what happened to make you late. She said, let me smell your breath. Oh, okay. She said, let me smell your breath, because what she wants to do is he said, baby, I've been clean for 7 days. She's remembering 10 years. And with those 10 years, she's remembering them. And she said, I want to smell your breath. Right. Because she doesn't trust him. And so because she doesn't trust him, she wants to do that. But when you celebrate the small victories, that's why I like AA. I like that because they give them that 12-step thing. And so I went with my stepfather one time, and he had gone to this class, and he said, "You want to come and just sit in with us?" And when somebody stands up and they say, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic," and he said, "But I've been clean for a month," and somebody else stands up and they say, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic, I've done drug addiction, but I've been clean for 2 days." They start to applaud him. They start to applaud him because they have to celebrate the small things. Yes. The small victories. They're celebrating the small victories. And so they applaud him over the small victories. It's the same thing that happens. You ever run a marathon? You run a marathon, and if you run a 10K, they got after the first mile, they got water stations. They got fruit there for you, a water station, and they have this crowd, and they're cheering you on. You just did 1 mile. Duh.